This is CBS News Chicago.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm Dana Kozlov.
And I'm Adrena Sinclair. Thank you so much for being with us. We want to get right to some breaking news right now. Roads flooded in Skokie. Look at this, a major water main break. It is causing some big problems. We got road closures in effect right now and school closures too.
And a police chase through several Chicago area towns overnight. It ultimately ended in the far south suburbs. We'll tell you why officers were chasing that car.
But we want to get right to that breaking news in Skokie. We've got teams covering this on the ground and in the air. A major water main break. It's causing some big problems. Look at this video
I
here.
mean, Chris, we are hearing roads are blocked. District 69 is closed. And looking at that video from Skywatch, it looks like it's almost a river running through parts of Skokie.
Indeed. Dana and Audrina, this was a major transmission line that broke this morning about 5:15 a.m. Right around East Prairie coming off of Emerson Street, and it has since flooded into many parts of the neighborhoods that surround it here. So with Skywatch over the top here, you can see that there are public works that are out there, water department, all sorts of folks here. There's a boil order in Skokie right now. A lot of the residents do not have water pressure at all. Some have noted low water pressure, but until further notice, the boil order is on because of the fact that this water main has literally hemorrhaged all across parts of East Prairie and Emerson and McCormick and parts of Gulf. We got eastbound Gulf that's closed down now from Central Park over through McCormick Boulevard, and it has just gushed all the way through house after house through the street level there. Don't know anything about the basements, but the streets are certainly skating rinks right now. But consider it, not only is it's bad enough to have something like this happen, but consider that it happened with such severe low temperature. Consider all of this water there. The residents, you can see them, they're coming out, taking a look there. You can't even see the street markings. You could barely make out that crosswalk right there. I'm not seeing any traffic signals illuminated in that signal block either, so we don't know if there may be a power outage that's either widespread, limited on purpose or not. Obviously, this is a tremendous impact for the residents here in Skokie. We have numerous streets that are flooded out. We have numerous residences that are completely surrounded by water. Not necessarily that deep, but it doesn't have to be deep to have such a tremendous impact, especially since all of this right now, as it, let's say, consider this. Moving water does not freeze. As long as it's moving, it's going to stay waterish, but you're starting to get a slush layer on the top, and then when it's no longer moving, it's going to solidify. It is going to turn into ice, and ice everywhere, not just in the street, but consider all these folks that it's all around. This is what it looked like earlier on. This is the main itself over at East Prairie and Emerson Street, and you could see there was bubbling up out of there. Look at that vehicle. They're up to their, at least the axles, up to the engines in water. Look at how deep this is with this city truck that's going through there, this plow truck, keeping the water moving. You want to actually have that happen. You don't want to let the water just stagnate there. Otherwise, this time of year, with it being well below zero, it just becomes a skating rink. And you can see that that's McCormick Boulevard over there on the right. McCormick, that's just kind of angling down that curve right there. That's just south of Emerson, which is also Gulf Road. So I've got plenty of maps that we can go over this later, but this visual impact is more than enough. Stay away from the area north of Dempster, south of Gulf, east of about East Prairie, and west of the canal right there along McCormick Boulevard. So, wow. What a mess that is, and we will continue to follow this throughout the morning. Dana and Audrina, back to you.
This is a huge concern for so many reasons, Chris. Thanks so much. And I would like to see a map later, if you could, if we can, of exactly which roads are flooded.
I've got the maps all set up, so yes, indeed.
Okay.
I can go ahead, and as soon as we get that in there, it's sequenced in. We will have those for you.
I just think that'll help me put and Adrena put our eyes on exactly where it is. Okay, thanks so much, Chris.
Sure,
now we want to check in with our Sabrina Franza, who is now on the ground in Skokie. I mean, Sabrina, it looks almost like neighborhoods are flooded, and I'm wondering, do you have any indication? I know you just got there. Are any homes or basements flooding too?
No indication about basements here. It is a likely possibility, but I do want to show you a car that has now been submerged in water, but not just submerged, it's actually frozen into the water here. You can see the top layer of the water. As Chris was mentioning, as long as the water is moving, it won't freeze, but that top layer does seem to be freezing over. This car, which has its tire halfway submerged in water and presumably some of the undercarriage of the car also underneath the water. Now that top layer is frozen, causing damage likely to the vehicles that are parked on this street. If you take a look towards the middle of the road here, you can see the water flowing in the direction of that same street down this one-way road. And even further, these cars, there's an SUV that you can see here, this blue one, is also partially frozen in the water as the water's stopped flowing at a certain point in the street. It's actually very, very dangerous and highly concerning to the cars that are on the road here. If you take a look down this way, one of the officers was talking to us about how this is actually the direction of where the water main break happened. There's a TJ Maxx in a parking lot just after that stoplight that you can see at the end of the road there, where they say this originated from, and all of the water now moving down the street and around the corner. I know you had a bird's eye view of how far this is really spanning here, but just to give you another idea, we talked about the basements, Dana. There are some folks that are coming out now that are saying that their heat is actually powered by water. So now their concern is that with all of this happening, with the water pressure now dropping in the Skokie neighborhood, in the surrounding area, that they might not actually have heat on what's become one of the coldest days of the year so far. So we're waiting to figure out if it will actually impact those neighbors here in Skokie. There are crews on the ground here trying to clear. It seems like they're trying to clear any sort of drainage system so that this water can find a way to exit, and we'll keep you posted as soon as they have this under control. But for now, that's the latest in Skokie. I'll send it back to you guys.
Wow, Sabrina, yeah, from above we see that some backyards are flooded, homes might be flooded. We'll continue to check in with you guys on the ground and in the air. Thank you.
And here in Chicago, around 50 houses are without water in the Garfield Ridge neighborhood. Our crews captured this video earlier this morning. The Department of Water Management says a pipe from 1919 burst and are reminding people to trickle their faucets in this weather. Now, crews are on site working to repair that break.
Let's switch now to your first alert forecast. We are in alert mode again just because of the cold weather, and then we've got the snow coming. But Laura, when we watch that video in Skokie and we're seeing those top layers freeze over, that's creating another huge concern right now.
I mean, yeah, it's unbelievably cold already right now. Add in that problem, like Chris mentioned, we're going to kind of keep this water moving. When it stops, easily going to freeze over. I mean, we have temperatures well below freezing here this morning. In fact, the day opened up in the single digits, below 0 this morning. We're now sitting at 11 with a wind chill of 0, so we do have a bit of a breeze out there. But cold weather in place all across the area now. Temps today staying below freezing. We're going up into the mid-20s. Now we are on alert late day today, mostly in the evening hours for some snow, dangerous cold. Again, got to keep an eye on what's happening out in Skokie here, as we do have some changes ahead for the forecast, not only in terms of snow, but the dangerous cold that follows. So we'll sort out the snow chance and the dangerous cold coming up in my next report. Back to you.
Laura, we'll see you soon for those details. Thank you. We want to get to your nonstop news where we're learning a lot more about this. It's a police chase that we saw ending in Crestwood this morning. Now, this all started when Illinois State Police located a stolen car wanted in connection with a kidnapping. And here's the chase we saw around 2 this morning.
Police tell us the kidnapping victim was in that car. They also tell us the man behind the wheel was wanted in Iowa on a warrant for a probation violation. When that chase finally ended, the man was taken into custody near 127th and Menard. The woman in the car was rescued.
And here are the massive flames we saw sparking overnight in Fuller Park near 44th Place in Wentworth. I mean, you don't see flames this big very often. This fire so big, the entire building collapsed here. The fire department says the building was vacant, so thankfully no one was hurt inside.
West Suburban Hospital in Oak Park is set to lose its credentials to operate residency programs.
Yeah, this is information coming from a new report out this morning from Crane Chicago Business. Our Sal Razai at the hospital with more on how this could leave doctors in training there scrambling.
We know the hospital has seen several issues over the past couple of years, and now they're being stripped of their accreditation for residency with their program ending in June. That's according to Crane's Chicago Business. Here's video someone posted to an Instagram account called Residents United at West Suburban. It shows the entrance of the hospital. You see there's a sign behind the door that says closed for construction. The caption on that post reads, quote, "To our patients, I'm sorry, the entrance of our hospital has been closed for weeks now, and you're having to walk through the ER entrance in this cold winter. You deserve better," end quote. As far as reports on them losing their residency program credentials, Crane's Chicago Business citing a letter sent to the Accreditation Council back in April of last year by resident program directors and the faculty here, reporting, quote, "a multitude of egregious actions taken by hospital management that made the program, quote, untenable." In the letter, they said the program director was publicly fired and basic needs were removed from the hospital, including food and safe drinking water, leaving residents without the ability to practice full spectrum care for their education. We know back in November, residents here picketed over safety concerns and said the hospital was in critical condition. We're still waiting to hear back from hospital officials as to how exactly things got to this point. Reporting in Oak Park, I'm Asal Razai, CBS News Chicago.
Asal, thank you. Right now, Vice President J.D. Vance is in Germany for the Munich Security Conference, and there he pushed the U.S. demand that NATO alliance step up defense spending. Vance also expected to meet with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky today, and after President Trump's call with Russian leader Vladimir Putin earlier this week, this meeting will shed some light on the Trump administration's ideas for negotiating an end to the war in Ukraine. And Vance's visit comes a day after a car plowed right into demonstrators here in Munich. Authorities say at least 30 people, including children, were hurt. The suspect, a 24-year-old Afghan asylum seeker, was arrested. The incident comes during an election campaign that has seen immigration and security emerge as top issues after several similar attacks. And President Donald Trump's administration continues its quest to reduce the size of the government. Sources this morning telling CBS News that hundreds of federal workers have already received layoff notices, with more expected in the coming days and weeks.
As CBS News' Jared Hill reports, Trump is also taking another step in his threat to put reciprocal tariffs on goods coming into the U.S.
This morning, hundreds of federal workers are out of a job, and thousands more are bracing for sweeping layoffs.
We have here rule of the bureaucracy as opposed to rule of the people.
Speaking virtually at a World Summit Thursday, Elon Musk, head of President Donald Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, said entire federal departments should be deleted.
If you don't remove the roots of the weed, then it's easy for the weed to grow back.
The long-term scope isn't clear, but CBS News has learned recent federal hires still on probationary status across several departments have received termination notices. Same for about 1,000 workers at the Department of Veterans Affairs as of yesterday. Democrats protested outside the VA.
9 million veterans are watching you give them the middle finger. And we're not going to stand for it.
U.S. officials have also confirmed that DOJ employees are examining the IRS, though yesterday President Trump told reporters he doesn't plan to close the agency.
I think that the Internal Revenue Service will be looked at like everybody else.
On a jam-packed Thursday that included meetings with India's Prime Minister, the president also signed an executive order directing his administration to look at imposing tariffs to match those that other countries put on U.S. goods. Critics warn it could hurt efforts to fight inflation.
Prices could go up somewhat short-term, but prices will also go down.
The president argued those reciprocal tariffs would level the playing field for American workers. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Overnight, a federal judge in the nation's capital ordered the Trump administration to temporarily restore U.S. foreign aid funding for contracts put into place before Trump took office. Well, next, growing concerns about the Pope's health, why he was taken to the hospital overnight.
And we're continuing to follow that breaking news right now of a major water main break in Skokie. You're looking at live video there. Skywatch over the scene. We will have an update for you from the ground and in the air right after the break. Welcome back. We are continuing to follow that breaking news right now of this water main break in Skokie. We are seeing just unbelievable video from there as all these areas are blocked off. We've got roads closed. The school district 69 has had to close because, I mean, you could see it, how bad it is right now.
Yeah, we want to go back to Chris Habermel, who's monitoring this situation right now. I mean, Chris, it literally looks like several streets are now rivers.
Indeed. And when this main transmission line broke this morning after 5 o'clock, it just started to bubble up a little bit by East Prairie and Emerson Street, literally blocks north of where Skywatch is right now, and street by street, alley, yard, sidewalk, everything has just been inundated by the water that came up gushing out of the street there. This is one of the worst water main breaks I think I've ever seen, and certainly your heart goes out for everybody who's involved in this because of the fact that we're in the middle of really deep winter weather right now. And as you can see, these vehicles that are there with water that is obviously up to the engine compartment, past the axles, sometimes almost completely obscuring the wheels on like that minivan right there behind this city crew. There's not going to be getting that vehicle out of there anytime soon, much less getting a towing vehicle in there to get them out, because this water is starting to freeze. Not only is the top layer starting to become slush, but where the water is not running, that's where it's going to turn to solid ice very quickly. And the thinner, the quicker it's going to be. The deeper, if it has some sort of a current underneath it, it's going to actually stay running water. So keep that in the back of your mind there. That also, we've got a boil order that's going on here because some pressure, some residents have no pressure. Some residents have some pressure, but altogether, Skokie has issued a boil order for everybody as a result of this, and that's till further notice. So you can see that street that's cutting through there at an angle. That's East Prairie. We're coming up to right here. You see where it's gushing out? That's East Prairie Road and Emerson Street, and that continues to push water. And you can see that not only is it pushing water up out of there, but it's also starting to push up some of the aggregate around it, some of the mud underneath there. Now, on the left part of your screen here, this is our wide view. Let's go ahead and fly in to where this is taking place right now. Here is that curve in the canal that McCormick Boulevard follows. This is where the main break is, at East Prairie Road and Emerson Street on the north end of this incident. Since that time, since it started to break, that standing water has inundated parts of Gulf, which becomes Emerson, East Prairie, Forest View Road, McCormick Boulevard. It's all filled in there just to the east of the canal. So literally your east-west streets, Gulf, Emerson, Lyons, Davis, Lake, Greenwood, those are all underwater. East Prairie, part of Forest View, Ewing, and McCormick, those are also underwater there. Those are running north and south. Now, here are some of the main road closures. These are just the arterials. In between there, we have a whole bunch of side streets that are inundated that are under. Eastbound Gulf from Central Park to McCormick, East Prairie from Church down to Gulf, Church Street from Ewing to McDaniel on either side of the canal, and McCormick Boulevard. And busy McCormick Boulevard is also underwater. It is literally a skating rink from Dempster down to Gulf. It is completely flooded out. So this is a major incident, and a lot of people are being affected by this. Steer clear of the area. That's the bottom line right now. They're going to need a lot of help to get through this one. Dana and Audrina, back to you.
Okay, Chris, thank you. It was good to see on that map kind of the area, too, to get to wrap our heads around it. We appreciate it. I know we'll be checking back in with you a little later on, I'm sure, in our hour here. Let's get to Laura now. I mean, Laura, the big concern here, it isn't just what we're seeing, right? But it's the fact that maybe tomorrow it might get a little bit above freezing. But I mean, we are not getting above freezing for days.
Yeah, no, we're going to get pretty close to it, and then the temperatures are actually going down. So we've got a lot of weather elements at play here. The cold, dangerous cold, and then multiple snow chances here. Thinking about the people that are just trying to maybe get to their house. Probably won't be able to do that.
And then we talked to Sabrina Franza, who a reporter on the ground right now. She said that people said that some of their heat is powered by water, and so they may not have heat right now, and their homes may be flooding, or at least garages flooding. We'll keep tabs on that.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, it just, weather-wise, I hate to say it, it sounds cliche, this couldn't have happened at a worse time.
No, truly. And yeah, especially when you see the extended forecast, because this is not going to be just like a couple-hour cleanup here. We're going to be feeling the impacts there for several days. So let's talk about those temperatures, the snow that's coming this way, because we do have a lot going on as we roll through the weekend and even into early next week. We do have our weather alert due to all the intense winter impacts in place through the early part of Tuesday. Monday, Tuesday is when we're looking at that sharp drop in temperatures, but let's not write off the numbers that we saw this morning, right around zero, below zero, especially to the north and across northern burbs there. We saw some intense cold this morning, mostly light breezes. Now we do have quiet conditions, at least around the area. We'll turn a little breezy here today. The snow chance is going to be ramping up throughout the evening. Saturday, snow, which may mix in with some rain, especially for areas farther to the south. Snow showers early on Sunday, and then next week we're looking at dangerous cold in the headlines. Here's that batch of snow that's going to be moving through after 6 o'clock, which is likely going to give us some messy travel conditions. Accumulations anywhere between 1 to 3 inches of snow through Saturday, likely going to put down an additional inch of snow. So really not a big snow for us, but we're just really focusing on these temperatures here. Mid-20s today, wind chills down into the teens. We do see some snow into the overnight hours, possibly mixing in with some freezing rain and some freezing drizzle. Quick little hit of snow through the later part of Saturday, Sunday morning. Do have some snow showers that's coming down. That's going to be sporadic, moving from west to east, clearing out of here. Not expecting big numbers for the second half of the weekend here, but we'll put down another inch or two. So this evening, snow anywhere between 1 to 3 inches, and then we see those numbers go higher through the day on Saturday. Nothing huge, but we do pick up anywhere between 2 to 4 inches of snow, lighter amounts expected to the south. 34 tomorrow. We're right around freezing. I do expect some colder readings to the north there. 27 on Sunday, and then a high of 7 degrees by Monday, Tuesday. Really not seeing much of improvement. In fact, we're going to 11 degrees. Those wind chill values around the region for early Tuesday morning, -20, as cold as -25 degrees. Dana, back to you.
Okay, Laura, thanks so much. As we keep an eye on your world this morning, the Vatican says Pope Francis is going to the hospital. The pontiff will be treated for bronchitis, and we'll have more on that as we learn more. For now, we're going to toss to break.
9:28. Welcome back this morning as we bring you back to this breaking news here. You can see crews out on the scene in Skokie where a major water main break has left roads flooded there. It's tough to see the scope of this from this area, but a major area leaving roads flooded, and it started around 5:15 this morning.
Right. There's also likely significant damage due to how cold it is out there right now. On East Prairie and Emerson, there is a steady stream of water and mud underneath. We have our Sabrina Franza on the ground. She will update us in about 5 minutes.
And we'll continue to keep Skywatch over the scene to continue to give you that impact of just how bad this is in Skokie right now with the boil water order in effect right now. And new this morning, TikTok is back in the Apple and Google App Stores.
And we know it's so confusing, so we're going to try to walk you through it. Yesterday, TikTok returned to the App Stores, so people who didn't have it before are now able to get it. This all comes after President Donald Trump promised to save TikTok and even signed an executive order to delay a ban. After that, the Supreme Court upheld the ban and the app went dark for a short period. Long story short, check your app stores. If you need to download it, it's there now. We'll be right back.
This is CBS News Chicago.
Good morning and welcome back. I'm Adrena Sinclair.
And I'm Dana Kozlov. It's 9:31 on your Friday. Thanks so much for staying with us. A boil water alert, school closures, and cars stuck tire deep in water that is turning into ice. We are continuing to follow breaking news out of Skokie after a massive water main break there.
And in addition to the boil water order and the school closures, that water main break also has, as you can see here, multiple road closures in the area, and that is just causing some ripple effects right now.
It absolutely is. We've got team coverage on this developing situation. We want to start with Chris Habermel. Hey, Chris, what can you tell us?
Well, Dana and Audrina, this started about 5:15 this morning in the area right around the intersection of Emerson Street and East Prairie, which is a little bit south of Gulf Road. And since that time, it has just become more and more and more unbelievable as water gushed out of this transmission water main. So basically, you've got a large diameter main that is fractured underneath the street. Smaller mains come off of that. Service lines come off the smaller mains, and you can see there behind the trees, that's McCormick Boulevard. That's not the canal. The canal's in the foreground right there. Right there, what you're looking at, that's the canal. A lot of the runoff water is would be coming out right there, and you can see it's going into the storm drains, coming out into the canal. So that's good. At least you have a flow coming out of one place where it's ruptured, going into the storm sewers down below. A lot of places that have ice on the surface, it's still moving down below and going into those storm drains. So as it's coming down, it could be worse, believe it or not, but at least we have the storm drains to divert some of that water off into the North Branch Canal right there. This is terrible. This is awful. You know, it is absolutely stunning to see this amount of water. And you see, obviously, Public Works is out there right now looking to make sure that the storm drains remain open, to continue to try and vent some of that water out of there and keep it moving. You don't want it to stagnate. It's already starting to turn to ice. On the left side of your screen there, we've got a wide view. Let's go ahead and fly into where this is taking place here. This is the canal, basically. On the right side of the canal, that would be getting into Evanston. On the left side of the canal, the blue line right through there, that's Skokie. The water main break took place here up north, right in that curve at East Prairie and Emerson Street. Since that time, it's actually flowed downhill along parts of East Prairie, McCormick Boulevard, Forest View, Ewing, all of those streets, and it's filled in block by block by block all the way down to just north of Dempster. So that being the case, they've had to close off eastbound Gulf from Central Park to McCormick, East Prairie from Church to Gulf, Church Street, Ewing to McDaniel on either side of the canal, and McCormick Boulevard, Dempster to Gulf, because basically that is absolutely filled with water. There's also a boil order for Skokie because a lot of residents have either low pressure or no pressure because of all of the water hemorrhaging out of that line. A lot of people have radiant heat, steam heat, and without that pressure, that impacts the fact that you have any heat going in the house. So can it get any worse? I don't know how. Dana and Audrina, back to you.
All right, Chris, thank you for that update. Now let's go back to our Sabrina Franza, who is monitoring that situation from the ground. Sabrina, have you been able to talk to any, I know they're very busy, Public Works officials or the mayor, or anybody, you know, that might be able to give you an idea of exactly where they're at?
Well, right now it appears like we found the source of this break, and I'll give you a look at where this seems to have originated from based on our conversations with police officers here on the ground. You can see there is a plume of water just spewing in the center of all of that emergency equipment that you can see is really just taking over this main intersection here, and that water is just coming up and overflowing onto the street. It is freezing the further away you get from the source of the water here, making it incredibly slippery, making it incredibly dangerous for folks that are walking by or driving by. I want to show you some video of the crews as they were trying to make their way through this mess, trying to break up some of the ice so that cars could make their way through, so that the water can continue to flow and not freeze around some of the cars that were parked on the streets here in Skokie. We have spoken to some of the neighbors that are now just getting up and trying to check in on their belongings, to check in on their neighbors. Some of them have moved their cars purposely so that they aren't stuck even more so in the middle of this mess. We are told that there are a lot of basements in the nearby area, that a lot of these homes do have some sort of lower level floor that they're monitoring to make sure it does not flood. Take a listen to some sound from one of the neighbors that we talked to who was checking up on some of his neighbors.
I feel for a lot of the people who live right here. I mean, we're just lucky to be one block over, but waking up seeing your car submerged in water is definitely not a great feeling, and hopefully the water didn't get backed up into people's basements and houses.
Dana and Trina, we have been seeing crews out here trying to get out some of the leaves, any drainage systems to make sure that they're clear so that the water can continue to flow and, like we said, not freeze. But as far as the source of the problem here, there, as you can see, are no crews that are here targeting the source, so it's unclear when this problem will resolve itself. Right now, neighbors are moving their things, checking on each other, and that's really all they can do until this is over. Guys, send it back to you.
Sabrina, I'll tell you, from Skywatch, we saw a couple public works employees standing in knee-deep water. In one case, it looked like it was almost ice, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is he going to get stuck there, trying to clear drains? So we really appreciate that update.
And now we are turning to Laura Bannon in your First Alert Weather Center now. Laura, when I saw those public works employees knee-deep in water there trying to clear drains, I was thinking about the temperature outside right now and then the temperature of that water. I can't imagine.
No, I know. And that was one of the colder areas this morning that was tracking, where it was easily down below zero, single digits this morning. The winds really haven't been a problem, but it is an awfully cold morning out there. Right now, we do see temperatures ranging from the single digits, low teens, at least getting up into the double digits. But my goodness, this is something you do not want to deal with when you talk about all that water there. So got to hopefully keep things moving. But some of those shots have noticed that we've already seen some ice accumulation out there. Staying below freezing today. We get to the mid-20s for highs, a slight breeze picking up from the southeast here today. Snow chance ramps up by this evening, going into the nighttime hours. May see a bit of a rain-snow mix. We'll sort out the snow, how much here this weekend, coming up in my next report.
Okay, Laura, thank you. And developing this morning, new accusations from the city's top watchdog against both Mayor Brandon Johnson and former Mayor Lori Lightfoot. The Chicago Inspector General accuses both Johnson and Lightfoot of blocking or slowing down investigations into misconduct allegations, claiming they withheld documents and selectively enforced subpoenas. The Inspector General also says the mayors insisted on having city lawyers sit in on investigative interviews connected to city leaders, which often led to those interviews being canceled. Now, a law department spokesperson says for the past 3 decades, previous city inspector generals have accepted the legal rights of city employees and legal interests of the city justified the lawyers' practices.
Today is your last chance to cast your vote in the search for Illinois' next state flag. So the state wants to know if you'd rather keep the flag we have, bring back the flag from 1918 or 1968, or maybe choose a new design. And the Illinois Flag Commission asked the public for new ideas. They chose 10 finalists out of more than 5,000 submissions. Once voting ends, the commission will report the results and recommendations to the General Assembly. It will then be up to state lawmakers to have the absolute final say.
And as we keep an eye on your world, the Vatican says Pope Francis is going to the hospital. The pontiff
has had some issues with bronchitis, and there was concern, so they want to take him to the hospital and undergo medical examinations. And it's the latest in a string of ailments that have raised concerns about the health of the 88-year-old. He had abdominal surgery in 2023.
We could learn more today about the deadly crash near D.C. that killed all 67 people involved. The National Transportation Safety Board is expected to hold a news conference later today and share the latest on its investigation. One air traffic control worker was handling duties normally done by 2 people when the American Airlines jet and Black Hawk helicopter collided mid-air last month. A former chairman of the NTSB previously told CBS News it is not uncommon for air traffic controllers to combine positions based on workload, but the agency will be looking at whether staffing played a role.
Well, make sure to stick with us because we're continuing to follow this. It's that massive water main break in Skokie. We've got a boil water order in effect. We have district schools that are closed in that area, and we're continuing to monitor the situation. We've got crews above it. We've got crews on the ground, and we'll bring you updates after the break.
And today is No One Eats Alone Day, a day aimed at ending school isolation at schools and bringing students together. We are live at one school participating in this nationwide movement.
We're staying on top of that breaking news situation right now in Skokie. Really unbelievable situation here that has just escalated quickly. We got that huge water main break. It's flooding streets and roads in a big area there in Skokie.
That's right. I mean, this huge water main break is causing massive problems right now. It's closed schools in the district. Several streets are, I mean, literally underwater. We're talking miles, we believe, of streets. A boil water alert is in effect, and Chris Habermel has been following this all morning long, so we want to check back in with him. Hey, Chris.
It's unbelievable. Dana and Audrina, you take a look at these pictures from Skywatch and your mind boggles in the fact that, okay, it's a water main. We're used to seeing water main breaks, maybe half a block or two, but this is block after block after block. It happened around 5:15 this morning, just south of Gulf Road, right around Emerson Street and East Prairie, which kind of comes off of Gulf and Emerson at an angle there. And as you can see, it has since grown to encompass block after block and yards and roads and streets and what have you, and it has just flown and flown down here. Now, what you can't see underneath, and here it is right now as Skywatch comes in over the top, this is the epicenter of the trouble. This is East Prairie Road and Emerson Street. This is a little bit south of Gulf Road, so they're looking south at this point, south-southwest. And as you can see, that water continues to gush out of there. The saving grace in having that water gushing out of there is that the water is moving. So if the water is moving, it's not freezing. If it becomes stagnant and you don't have any kind of flow, it's going to turn to ice, and solid ice at that. And literally, we have day after day after day coming where we're below freezing and sometimes below zero. Plus, we've got some snow coming in. Laura will talk about that. But look at all of the streets that are affected by this. That angled street, that's East Prairie Road. In the foreground there, you've got that bending street, that's McCormick Boulevard. Now we pulled in the maps on the left side of your screen here, so we fly into where this is happening. And as you can see, our kind of key markers here, you know, the street that's bending there, McCormick Boulevard, runs along the North Shore Channel, which basically links up with the North Branch of the Chicago River. It's man-made, was built back in the early 1900s to increase the flow of the North Branch of the river, basically from Belmont all the way out to Wilmette Harbor. So the saving grace is that's close by. The water main break is right here at East Prairie and Emerson. It has since flooded into all of these streets that I've illuminated in red. Anywhere from Gulf all the way down to Dempster, not including Dempster. It stops just a little bit north of there because the storm sewers have been able to take a lot of that runoff and dump it into the North Shore Channel. So McCormick is blocked, and Forest View and East Prairie, and all of the streets in between. We have these major road closures, eastbound Gulf from Central Park to McCormick, McCormick Boulevard, which is completely underwater from north of Dempster all the way up to Gulf, Church Street, either side of the channel there from Ewing to McDaniel, coming out of Evanston, and East Prairie from Church over to Gulf. So in between all of those streets, you've got east-west roads, not just Gulf, but Emerson and Lyons and Davis and Lake and Greenwood, and the north-south streets, East Prairie Road that runs at an angle there, and then Forest View and Ewing and McCormick Boulevard. Of all the times of the year for something like this to happen, this has got to be one of the worst because of the fact that we've got very, very cold temperatures. The water, as soon as it starts to drain down, is going to turn to ice. As soon as it starts to stagnate further away from that active break where you've got current that's starting to turn to ice, but at least it's running into the storm sewers and can be vented out into the North Shore Channel. So we've got that going for us. But a lot of people are in a lot of misery right now over this.
Yeah.
And that boil order as well for Skokie.
And who knows how long that will be in effect, because this is such a massive break. Chris, thank you so much. You know, Chris was talking about the weather, Laura. I mean, and there's no real thaw in sight. Not really.
No, not at all. I mean, we were talking about all morning how we're really getting into the thick of it, and we've got an intense stretch, dangerous cold, multiple snow chances. We're watching for snow late this evening. 14 degrees right now for the current temperature at Skokie, so very cold.
And with that, we're seeing public works crews in the water, knee deep, and you're talking about 14-degree temperatures. So we're going to keep following that as we're starting to see people post there in Skokie who are boiling their water, and their home, the water is getting closer to their home. So big concern.
And the ice too, with the cold weather in place. So let's go into it, take a look at some of these temperatures around, and they're really low. They were lower this morning when this break initially happened. We made it down to the single digits, sub-zero earlier. We've tacked on a couple more degrees since then. Skokie at 14, O'Hare 11, LaGrange at 16, and Cal City out to 2 right now. 4, Valparaiso, Waukegan sitting at 11 degrees. Now, here's the breakdown with the snow and the busy weather, because things are going to be changing throughout the day today. Snow is going to be returning back to the area after 6 o'clock. Saturday, snow, some mixed with rain. Sunday, some snow showers still clinging on, and we're looking at some travel impacts, at least with all the snow that we get here. Not talking about huge numbers here, but as we look at the later part of the day today, a couple of inches, and then we'll tack on an inch or 2 through Saturday, Sunday. Next week, dangerous cold. It's cold now, expected to get even colder. Here's a look at the snow that's going to be moving through by the evening after 6 o'clock, still clinging on through 10, 11 o'clock. But there's likely going to be a lull in the activity that may bring us a little bit of a mix, rain, snow, some freezing drizzle potentially. Now that potential is going to be mostly off toward the south. So more snow through the late day Saturday into the overnight hours. Additional accumulations here look to stay minor. Overall, big take-home message here. We're on target to pick up anywhere between 2 to 4 inches here across Chicago. Those higher amounts to the north, lighter amounts farther to the south. Not a big snow. It's not going to all hit at once. We'll see that littered about through Saturday into Sunday. By Monday, Tuesday, dangerous cold in the headlines. 7 for a high on Monday, down to -5 Tuesday. Tuesday morning, wind chills as low as -25.
Okay, Laura, thank you for that. Well, there is a powerful movement happening at schools across the country today to end social isolation and help students feel a sense of belonging.
And it's called No One Eats Alone Day. It's a program created by the nonprofit Beyond Differences, which also works with Sandy Hook Promise, that organization formed after the 2012 Sandy Hook school shooting. For more on this, we want to go to Crystal Guerin, Chief Program Officer for Sandy Hook Promise. She's joining us live now with the No One Eats Alone event happening at Keller Middle School. Good morning. It has been so powerful to talk to kids there this morning about the purpose of this day. Can you share a little bit more with us?
Good morning. No One Eats Alone is a positive prevention initiative, a Beyond Difference program of Sandy Hook Promise with the sole goal to focus on ending social isolation. No One Eats Alone is in honor of Lily Rachel Smith, a teen girl who experienced social isolation in middle school. This initiative started with a handful of schools, and now we are across the country nationwide celebrating. So a very important initiative to end social isolation.
It's lovely. Can I ask you a big favor? Can you move your microphone up your lapel a little bit closer to your mouth? And then I also want to ask, thank you, because it's so loud in that newsroom or in that lunchroom. Thank you so much. I want to ask, why is this day something your organization, Sandy Hook Promise, wanted? Why did you want to be a part of this? How does this align with your gun violence prevention goal and mission?
At Sandy Hook Promise, we know that warning signs are critical. All warning signs should be taken seriously. Social isolation and loneliness have been cited in several studies, including the Centers for Disease Control, as a risk factor. And so that we know if we help young people to connect and belong, they can do better in the classroom, and they can achieve more academic performance. So addressing social isolation is critical if we want belonging and connection at schools.
Earlier, we were talking to a student about that, and they were creating these hands, and they, in the middle of the hands together, were the things that make them the same or alike, so that they can join together. What do you hope that people take away from this event and the kids take away from it?
I hope hope that the takeaway is that every young person, just one person, finds another young person to connect to. Connection is so important to emotional well-being and physical health. And so we really hope that young people have someone they can look to, especially in the lunchroom when it's really hard and young people have a hard time knowing other people. We hope that that connection facilitates belonging and connection.
That's beautiful. I hope the day is a wonderful success and all of the subsequent No One Eats Alone days are as well. Crystal Garant, Chief Program Officer for Sandy Hook Promise, thank you so much for being with us this morning. And to learn more about today's mission, head to nooneeatsalone.org. We'll be right back.
We want to give you another update on that massive water main break right now in Skokie.
You're looking at video from Skywatch. We have, Skywatch in the air. We have ground crews keeping a close watch and trying to stay up to date on this, which is where our Sabrina Franza joins us live now. Sabrina, any update?
Hey, Dana, what's actually extremely dangerous and incredibly confusing and just incredible is that the water, as it's receding or as it's coming out of this water main, is actually making its way closer to the homes, and you can see the water underneath this thin sheet of ice here encroaching as it makes its way down the street and then refreezing after the water starts to plume from what we believe is the source of this water main break here just behind me. It will flow towards us and down the street and make its way before it refreezes. Neighbors here are checking on their other neighbors. They're moving their cars. They're trying to check on their basements. We spoke to one of the people that lives in the home that's just right next to where this break happened. She said that her basement is okay at this hour, but everybody is just monitoring the situation while Skokie works to find a solution. Guys, send it back to you.
All right, Sabrina, thank you so much. Yeah, we haven't seen another update coming from the village of Skokie, but we are hearing from people who are saying that they're 3 miles away and they have no water pressure right now. So it just shows the impact of this. Thank you for that report. Now we're turning to Laura here with our first alert forecast. Is we've got, you said 14-degree temperatures in Skokie right now?
14, really not going to go much higher through the rest of the day today. So looking at that 7-day stretch here, I mean, things are not going to improve in terms of the weather department. This is quite possibly the worst time for this to happen. The cold, we had the snow over the last couple of days. We've got more snow coming down here this evening and then again throughout the weekend. Dangerous cold in the headlines for next week.
All right, Laura, thanks so much. And thank you for joining us here on the News at 9. Your local news continues here on the stream.
And that's where you can find the latest updates on that water main break. We'll continue to follow it throughout the day. Have a great day. Stay safe, and we will see you next time.